Well, Jess, I just want to say thank you for spending a little time with me today. And I am so excited to learn all things about your framework and the work that you're doing. But I have to start here. And it's that you had a pretty personal and impactful moment in your life. It was that you experienced, I believe they call it a cardiac arrest, that happened shortly after you had given birth to one of your children. How did it change the way you think about risk and what's actually worth spending your time on?
Yeah. The one thing that trauma does to you is it puts everything into perspective in a picosecond, right? It is unreal. And two fascinating things happen. One is being an entrepreneur and wanting to do big things in my life was something I always wanted to do. I thought entrepreneurs were special snowflakes, and I was not one of them. I worked in corporate for decades, and the universe was like, your position is being moved to Switzerland, and so you're not going to be doing that because you have a newborn and you're recovering. So here you go. Here's a severance package. Like, do you want to go? You have an opportunity to either look for another job in this company or go. And I went. I took the risk of being an entrepreneur, kind of stepped off of that cliff and did that. And that changed the trajectory of my life completely. And I think I did it because I was in that moment of, listen, no one is guaranteed like tomorrow. No one's guaranteed even the next 5 minutes. Go for it. You know, and I remember like even in that moment being like, should I do this? And my husband's like, are you kidding me? Like, it's everything you ever wanted, like, and a severance package to just go. So I did that. And the risk seems so much smaller when you're on the other side of something like that. But the other like mind blowing thing about it is you are who you are on some level. So I think many of us want to believe we came through this horrendously tragic thing and we are now absolved of all of our, like, all of the things that used to hold us back and all the things that we did before that were like, man, I shouldn't do that. No, you are the same person. So do I sweat the small stuff sometimes? Yes. Do I waste my time or push my body in a way that, you know, makes me uncomfortable sometimes? Sure. But I do think it gives you perspective. And so for me, I learned that not everything is created equal and that the more simply and powerfully you can do things in your life and make choices to understand where do you want to put your time, what is most important to getting the outcomes and the results that you want, both in my business and in my personal life, and then focusing and optimizing in those places, you will create so much more and have so much freedom and so much more time and energy than you would if you were doing all the things, most of which are mediocre, and they're not really getting you where you want to go.
I love that because we are going to discuss how you help business leaders really create some focus around the work that they're doing. So at this point in your life, you decide, okay, I'm going to take a pivot. I'm going to jump into entrepreneurship. And now that's who you work with. You work with, you know, established businesses. They have that proof of concept that things are working, but why aren't they growing? We all get there, right? Where we're not growing. What's that sort of thing that you see that's the common thread that's holding them back that we can't see ourselves?
Yeah. Most of my clients and the people that I work with are either they're growing and they're having the experience that they have never worked harder in their life. Like they're getting everything that they want, but yet they have less time, less energy. Like it's never been harder. Or they're doing it and it's like twice as hard as it was last year. Like what's going on? So it's either that experience or they're growing and they're hitting a plateau where they're feeling like they're grinding against this thing and they're doing all the things and none of it is really working. And what is the symptom underneath that is that, like I was saying earlier, in our businesses, not everything is created equal. You have a series of levers and assets that are there that you have worked really hard to create, and you need to understand which one of those are controlling most of the growth in your business. It's really like that 80-20 rule that we hear about all the time. It sounds so cliche, but the truth of the matter is 20% of the things that you are doing, or the 20% of your offers or whatever it is, the inputs, 20% of those inputs are creating the vast majority of your outputs. And the key is understanding not only what those are, but understanding what is the next best step to you taking what is already there and optimizing that to X your growth. And once you can see that, we help people see it, and then we help people choose it, because part of it is the plan and the clarity of this is where my money's coming from. I can follow the bouncing ball and see that these are the exact things that I need to influence in order to create this result that I want, this growth. But then the other part of this is choosing to be someone that focuses on that and wants to build a business that grows faster and more simply. And that includes not doing the stuff that sounds great, but really isn't moving the needle, and saying no to all those things.
Now that's really hard because most of us are terrified of what we call either niching down or just giving all of our efforts to one thing, because in the day we live in, there is so much opportunity everywhere. And we fear that, but I'll give this up. This is a potential too. And now, what you have is you have a process that you have created that helps people when we are in this space. We are a little bit scattered, how you kind of help us and really see the value of really placing our focus, our time, on energy on that one thing. And you have coined it a Hell Yes offer, is getting clear about like, what's the one offer that you're going to give that's just a Hell Yes no-brainer. And before we get into what makes a Hell Yes offer, maybe tell us a little bit about what a Hell No offer looks like in disguise, right? Because I suspect that the people listening are probably running one and we don't know it.
Yeah, that's a great question. For businesses that are, I would say, earlier on in their growth journey, establishing an offer that is a Hell Yes is really important because it's the thing that drives the engine of your business, especially when you're newer. When you're established and you're running an offer or you're running several offers, Hell Yes offer is hiding in there from the perspective that it is the thing that is bringing in the majority of your revenue. In order to see what that is, you need to look at your data. In order to understand how that is functioning, what is making that successful, you need to look at what is actually happening in my business. What is working? The Hell No's are all the things that are not driving that growth engine, that are either not profitable, they are like underwater with the amount of time and effort that it takes to run them. Like when you get into the brass tacks, like they are the 80% that are not delivering what the majority of your growth is. And so the Hell Yes offer really, it comes into your focus very quickly when you know what to look for in your business, and we can help you uncover what that is, and not even just what it is, but where the opportunity cost and the gap is. So with this awesome offer, if it's not optimized, you are leaking money out of your business, and mostly profitability, because we tend to front load and push a bunch of stuff and add because we think that's what's going to create the growth, but it's actually backing out the inefficiency and plugging those leaks that allows your business to actually flow faster, people convert more quickly, and you're leveraging what's already there, which requires much less effort, much less spend, much less sanity being sucked out of your life, by adding more work streams when you don't need to do that because it is sitting there waiting for you to actually make it better. Do what you're doing better.
So I'm hearing you say, yeah, for sure, those things that are causing leaks, that just aren't really tying back to revenue, most likely, possibly even joy in your life. But now let's move into let help me build the solution, right, to what you have developed and what I'm going to call maybe your Hell Yes audit, which are these 4 sort of distinct moves that someone listening who's running a business can make in order to get there. And I was really impressed. You were on the Nathan Barry show where you mentioned that this same audit can help a business unlock essentially $1,000 in profit or more. So would you mind walking us through that audit or those 4 distinct moves that you constantly chat about?
Sure, absolutely. So the first one we can talk about is the Hell Yes offer. So what you are selling in your business is one of the most powerful profit levers that you have. And having those run optimally and convert and give you the ROI that you desire for the goals you have in your business are really important. So understanding how they're functioning, what that ROI is, how much it is costing you, all of those things are crucial. If you have offers people say hell yes to, guess what it does? Like makes everything else in your business easier, right? Your traffic is easy, your messaging is easy, like all the things are easy. So again, if you are an earlier business, optimizing that offer for Hell Yes is where you need to be. And a lot of times it is not optimal. It is running and functioning. But when we think about growth, we think about adding another offer or adding more things for growth. But I'm here to tell you that success is in subtracting. It's in taking the asset and making it as profitable and powerful as you can And by doing that, it's actually costing you less money and time, and you can get a whole lot more on the back end.
And here's where I'd plug in just a quick secondary question. How does someone know that it's actually their offer that's the problem and not their marketing or their pricing or their team?
Yeah, it depends. You know from your data. Okay. You understand where it's leaking by understanding where to look for it and uncover the numbers. I was just talking to someone about this today who's running a group program. And I was like, do you want to take 10 minutes to talk about this? She's like, sure. I'm like, give me 30 seconds. I was like, this is your funnel. This is your funnel for your offer. And these are the 4 places on that journey. Let's talk about what's going on here. And what we found in this example is that when people get to the call with her and they are offered the program, they convert. She has a hugely high conversion rate. Wow. So where she's leaking money with this offer is on this front end piece where she has a workshop or a webinar that she's running. It's not the amount of effort she needs to push into this funnel in order to get people to get to that call and then convert is huge. So that's a very simplistic view of when you look at it and we understand where to look, we can really get clear. Then digging even deeper, like for her, it was what she was saying in the workshop and that call to action and the conversion. We have a scalable approach to understanding where are you leaking so that you need to do a couple of things and the uptick is huge. I mean, for her, she had 600 people register, 100 people on this, show up on this call, and she needs 10 people. I'm like, you could run $25,000 of Facebook ads and run another workshop if you want to do that, or we could just optimize this asset within this funnel to do what it needs to do.
Well, and what are some of the, as we're in this first part of your audit, this sort of diagnosis, right? What are some of the numbers? Because you talk a lot about data, which I very much appreciate. Just generally speaking, the businesses that come to you and work with you, what are some of the common data points that you tend to find that you want to pay attention to? Is it ads, conversions? Is it having enough people to talk to? Like, what are some of the maybe 1 or 2 data points that you tend to look at that provide pretty easy data that help you kind of pivot or really find clarity?
Yeah, it can be all of those things, but it actually depends on the business. So I will give you an example of this. And I will preface this by saying one of the biggest problems is people think they know where their money is coming from and they actually don't. And then they don't know how to fix those problems in a simple, streamlined way. They often think they have to add something on significantly in order to spearhead that growth. So if you don't really understand what's moving the needle, so you don't know what the most powerful lever is, and then you can't dissect that lever to understand where the crack is and that we just need to plug that crack rather than building a whole nother lever, you're spinning a lot. And the weight of it gets even bigger because we all know in reality as business owners, when we're like, we're just going to add another webinar, like what that really means in real life. It's not just like throw the thing together and send some ads to register. It's a whole litany of things that you're now lifting. So an example I'll give you is I work with many brick and mortar businesses, one of which was a med spa that I worked with, multiple $1 million business. And they were having this problem where they're spending a ton of money and their growth is stalling and the owner is chained to the business and all of these pieces. So I said, okay, let's look at what you're doing. And so we looked at their business and we uncovered, much to their surprise, that the number one thing that was driving their business were the events that they were running to have people come in the door to their brick and mortar and actually then, buy things. When we looked at this event in isolation, we started to understand that they were getting people to these events. And when people came in, they were buying things. But if we could actually not do anything differently, except when they came in the door, we had a plan for what it was we wanted them to buy, the actual client journey we wanted them to take, and how best to drive that conversion, they could more than double their revenue. And so when we first started working together, that is what we focused on. And we went from them having events where people would buy some products and this and that to understanding who is this client, what is the next best step for them, and what can we get them to buy on the back end in a packaged way that's going to make this an easy yes. Their first event that they ran, they made $45,000 in one day. The thing was from 10 to 3. Okay.
Wow.
Didn't spend more, didn't need to hire more people. Didn't need to do anything. In fact, they had a great time. The team was on point. They knew what they were supposed to be doing. All roads led to the packages that we put together for these people. And it was like a love fest for everyone. So after we did that, we debriefed and said, okay, this is now an asset. So every time she wants to make money, guess what she does? She takes this blueprint and she runs another event. So we did like the laser event in, whatever, September. And then we ran the Christmas holiday one. And then she ran another one. She was going to run another one for Mother's Day.
Wow.
And each time we're optimizing this so that it doesn't live in isolation. It's actually taking this asset and making it repeatable. And the conversion keeps going up, which is a really important lever. It's like these repeatable assets, and reactivating her list and bringing those people back in and doing these things better. Not a new thing, not something you don't have any data for. Like the thing that is working, that's sitting there right in your business. You've already worked hard for it. Like, how can we make this thing convert at 10x? Versus you doing something completely different.
Well, and that's where you start to uncover the money, as you said, right? Easily
That's
in her, in this one event, 2 events, and now she's practically at $100,000. And while we stay in this first part of it, before I move on to the next part of your audit, in this diagnosis phase, you talk a lot about, look, we've got to start doing less and do better, optimize, right? Like, let's just optimize what's working, make that better. What would you say a high-performing business owner needs to stop doing first?
Oh, yes. We are so preconditioned that more is better. And I'm saying this as someone who is not completely absolved of this. We live in a world where there's so much information around us. We're watching each other, and we really think that adding things and doing more and being more productive and working harder is the thing. And we care deeply about our businesses, especially as women, where we start to think that the common denominator is us, like we are doing something wrong. And that is why our business is not moving. And if I just moved harder and did more things and did it, better, this wouldn't be a problem. But the truth is that's actually the opposite. Like when you know what the most important things are and you can see how that connects and you choose it. You choose to say no to the stuff that isn't on that plan, or say no to the thing that wasn't your best next opportunity and still isn't today, two weeks later. You know what I mean? It's that thing that we're doing. And you do have to be able to manage through the discomfort. And we do a lot of support around that. We are a trusted partner for the CEOs to help them remember or just keep them on track to, this is your next best opportunity. We have mapped this out with a scalable approach for the next 90 days. And here's where it is. And sometimes we have to kind of go through the motion. Like, okay, let's talk through want to spend $300,000 on this. Like, what would that look like? And help people understand when they work through it, that that's not going to be their easiest path to growth, and they're going to spend $300,000 doing it.
Wow. So now once we've moved through this sort of diagnosis phase, the first part, let's move on to kind of what's the next step then through this 4-step audit.
Yeah. So we uncover what's going on. And as I mentioned, it is different for every client because your business is unique. And this is really important. The answer and the money that you want is often sitting in there, but it's specific to you. And understanding how to look for that and then where your next best opportunity is very important as it relates to your business. So once we uncover that, the things that we're looking for are mining what is there in a more leveraged way. And there are a variety of things that people can do that are really powerful that often we think of last because we want to think of new shiny things that we're adding. But some of the things that we do a lot with our clients and we help them see where that opportunity is we will look for leverage around how can we put things together and bundle things or create value for your clients that are going to increase things like average order volume or the number of things that people buy, so that we can, in one transaction, we can actually significantly increase your revenue. So an example of this is a company that I worked with sells very high-end collectible books. And they were having all these launches. We're going to launch this run. We're going to launch this run. And they were usually short collectible runs. It would be like a couple of 100 books. And they would have a series like, well, these are the classic series. And they're like launching. And one day we basically said, how about if we take a look at this? I mean, people are buying these things. Instead of you launching, what about if we took the first one that you're launching now and gave all the buyers that buy this book the opportunity to pre-buy the next one. So we're going to call it like the VIP bundle, and you have the option of buy one or buy two for a slightly less amount, and then throw in like a postcard or something. We gave a special thing that went along with that bundle, and we gave it an identity. Well, they sold out book number one that they were selling, and then they sold out 80% of the run to the second one that was coming later, to the tune of, these books are hundreds of dollars a piece, and there's hundreds of books in the run. The math is big. And so they closed that cart, and then they went to their existing list to sell the last 20% of that second book and sold that out. So they never had to launch the second run publicly. They sold them both out, and they did it now with less customers. And I think this is the part that's really mind-blowing for people. It's like they just made twice as much money with half as many people.
Wow. This is why knowing your numbers is so important. It's why you start there, right? It's really looking at what makes you profitable. And I did this in my real estate career. I was spending so much time with strangers, and my husband, who knew math better, was like, do you know that 80% of your income is coming from the people who already know you? What if you just focused on that list and grew it? You would make and keep way more money and spend a lot less time chasing all these strangers that don't even trust you. So
100%.
Again, coming back to you, so we're very clear about knowing what we should stop doing first and understanding our numbers. And then, all right, what do we do next? I think that, and you tell me, because I know what people want to know is, all right, now that we're clear, now that we've audited all of this, this is the piece that I think we most get stuck on, is how do we now make it repeatable? Like, what does a scalable, repeatable offer look like for a service-based business? Because I think that's where we can kind of get tripped up sometimes.
Yeah, this is a really important point, and I'm glad you asked it. So similar to the event example that I gave, that event, that funnel is a repeatable asset. Every time the med spa wants to make money, they take that funnel and they run it over and over again. With the book company, we debriefed that launch and we understood what worked. Why did people buy this? What did we say? How do we take what we learned from this and apply it to the next launch? So we're not just creating short-term gain for you, which we are, but you can use this framework over and over and over again forever. Amen. Like forever. And you get better and better at it, because when we looked at who bought these books, for example, and why did they buy it, and what did they open, and what did we say to them, and how does that look, and this happened in the conversion, you start to understand exactly what is making your business tick. I will give you another example with a service-based business. I worked with a coach. She's a money coach. She's amazing. She had a huge business. She was running all the Facebook ads, spending tons of money. She was inviting people into a webinar, and then she was offering them a $5,000 program on the back end. And then from there, she had a premium level, that was $25,000. So when I came in to work with her, what she was actually focused on is like, we're not getting enough people on this webinar. Like, our ads are not working well enough. And I was like, okay, like, let's take a look at what's going on here. So I looked at her ad spend, and I looked at the amount of people that were coming on to this webinar and registering for this webinar. And it was like hundreds of people. I was like, okay, well, we got some people here. Like, what's happening after that? Okay, what's the call to action? Okay, we're asking them to come to a call. Okay, what's happening there? How are they converting? So we went through this whole thing. And what we found in her whole series and her customer journey was that the problem that she was having was that she was getting approximately 200 people to sign up for a call. But when we actually broke it down, only 95 people were actually coming to the calls. And out of that, she was converting at 50%. So when we looked through the lens of a repeatable asset and leaks, we found that one place where she was losing over 50% of the people to actually show up on this call and have a conversation with them was the biggest issue. We could have went and spent $50,000 on ads and got more people to the thing and ran that webinar and ran them to the call to then have 50% of the 500 people that signed up for the call fall out, or we could just close this gap. So we worked with her to close the gap on the sales call and to get almost 100% of those people that actually signed up for it to come to the call. That alone doubled her revenue, because now instead of 200 people signing up and only 95 people showing up, she had 190 people showing up for the call because she had 200, and now we fixed that leak. She had 190 people, and then she was converting 50% of those people.
Wow.
And do that math times 5K, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars in one launch. Now, the thing that's beautiful about this, to your point, Allie, is she wants to run this program quarterly. So when she takes this funnel that is converting in a certain way with an asset that is now optimized and she runs it 3 more times in a year, do the 385,000 times 4.
Whew.
Okay, right. And this is really important for business owners to understand, is that these numbers are exponential, and they are important even if you're somebody who's making $10,000 a year, because you could add 4 more programs, or you could figure out how to get your program to, instead of sell $10,000, sell $20,000. But if you're $1 million business and you plug the leak of 10%, guess how much money you're making more?
Yeah.
Right? Like $100,000. And it's easier. She didn't need to hire more people. She didn't need to spend more money on ads. She didn't need to do 15 more webinars. So that's the way you make it repeatable. You actually look at the asset and you know how it's performing. This is like the beauty of having a powerful lead gen or a powerful, whatever it is. But in businesses, the easiest conversion is that back end. It's the blue ocean of what you've already created. And how do you do less things better and get a higher ROI with more time and more money?
Well, and I'd have to believe that you showing these numbers is how you get professionals to actually believe you, because
100%.
Most high achievers are like, no, we kind of don't know how to slow down. We feel like we're not doing enough. And so probably looking at this data is how I would quickly say, okay, for sure. That's what my husband helped me see that day in real estate, where it was like, oh, I don't have to spend, thousands of hours chasing strangers. And it allowed a busy mind like myself to say, hey, you're not underperforming. You're just, like you said, optimizing what works. And I have one more question on your framework. Do you ever find yourself walking into working with a client where you kind of find, look, yes, we can either optimize it, which you've chatted with us about, or do you ever find yourself like, how do you know if it's actually got to be rebuilt from scratch? Maybe we got to shred the whole thing. This is not working.
Yeah. So there are times where that is the case. We never shred something, we never blow it up, because there's always something that is working. Okay. So the question might become, where we get into this sort of situation is if I was talking to you and you were telling me about your business and you're like, actually, I totally hate all of this and I want to I'm done with it. I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm not interested anymore. And you need help with the intention of creating something different. We would take what you have and what is worked in your business and use that as the springboard to give you calculated information and decision to change it.
Wow. This is what's so valuable, and I wish I would have had with you, because when I took the pivot from real estate into marketing many years ago, that was probably the hardest piece. When I was selling real estate, there was a physical, tangible asset. When I moved into marketing, it became very hard. It was like, what am I really selling? Am I selling words? Am I selling, so if anybody listening is in that early stage of thinking about making a pivot or wants to blow stuff up, because some entrepreneurs like myself tend to do that. We're like, okay, we're just going to start over. This is where you come in, you guide us, and you say, okay, hold on. Before we do, let's take a strategic approach to it. So real quickly, to make sure I have not forgotten anything, would you mind just kind of running us back through kind of those 4 parts of what makes a really great Hell Yes offer?
Yeah. So I'll simplify this. So number 1, your Hell Yes offer is one of the most powerful profit levers in your business. When you have an offer that makes people want to say hell yes, whether it's in your offer stack or you're a newer business, that is where it's at. So that becomes the epicenter of your business. So that's number 1. Number 2, any place where you can bundle and provide more value per unit of sale is where it's at. So we're thinking about things like increasing the average order volume, the number that people spend per transaction. When you do that, just for simple math, if you have 100 people that come in and spend $100, then you will have, $10,000 doing that. If you have 100 people come in and spend $200, you have the same amount of people, same amount of effort, the amount of money, you're now making $20,000 with no extra effort, with more ease. And it usually becomes even more profitable because you've now optimized it. There's economies of scale and things that you can do because you've done this before and now you're more efficient at it. So you end up, it's exponential in that way. And small tweaks, whether it's small tweaks in pricing or small tweaks in units, Like that bundling and increased value is really powerful. We talked a little bit about it, but reactivating your list. So proximity to you, as I said, the back end of your business is blue ocean. When somebody raises their hand to join your webinar, or they register for your thing, or they click on your email or something like that, they're already in your world. We could spend a lot of time chasing cold traffic all day long, but it's harder. It's harder. So if you look to the back end of your business at where you've already spent the time and money and figure out, how do I do this better? How do I trim the fat, get rid of the chaos, focus in on the levers that matter and do those really well, and work with those people in that space and the things that I have, like reactivating all that stuff. Even kind of to touch on your point, Allie, about you might have something that you are tired of, like we all are as business owners, but you don't need to blow it up. Like you could give it a fresh facelift. You could reposition it in some way where you're now getting this exponential growth because it's optimized versus you've trashed the whole thing and you're trying to start new with something you don't have any data around and you've never sold before. That is much harder. So what is in there where you can reactivate people, package those things? And reactivating means that you've taken, again, one person, and now instead of them spending $100 with you one time, maybe they're spending $100 with you every quarter because you've changed the way you sell this thing, same thing, but now they're a $400 client. You 4x your business just doing that. So that's another opportunity. And then from a marketing perspective, of course, we always want traffic and demand and things like that. But again, how would we do that if we were using leverage and things that are in our business? All of those referrals and word of mouth. Everyone wants to think that they're spontaneous and they happen by accident and they're not, we don't want to rely on them. But you know this from real estate, right? You need to have an intentional strategy around those people. People use word of mouth and referral as their marketing strategy, period. And they do an amazing job for it, but it doesn't happen as an afterthought or something that you haven't really nailed down. So what are those people who love you? How close in proximity are they to you? Those are your hottest people. How do you use those people to get to the other people that are right in proximity to them? That is another huge lever. So I would say those are the 4 things that if you are listening to me right now, if you do any of those, you will blow your own damn mind at how quickly and easily your business will grow.
Wow. Thank you for recapping that for us, because I do believe we tend to complicate things. It's normal.
Yes.
And it's because we are so close to the business. Again, some of us are impulsive like myself. We blow stuff up, or we don't know the data. And so we don't know that this is really where we should be giving our time to. And you do talk about intuition a bit as I've listened to you. And for those listening, you have an amazing podcast called It's Your Offer. Right? You were on a different podcast where the host was like, how do you say that? It's your offer. Or no, man, it's your offer. It's your offer. But you are the host of a great podcast called It's Your Offer, where people can really listen, get all these valuable tips. But you talk about intuition as kind of a little bit of a compass for us, to guide us. And, when we think back to that moment where we started, you in the ER, and, you had to take that risk. You decided, I'm going to follow my intuition, right? A lot of business leaders we've talked about are very data driven, which is great. How do you help someone sort of learn to trust their gut as they're looking at making a change? Because it's scary. Risk is scary. You made a very big one, right? When you decided to go into entrepreneurship, how do you help someone like that learn to trust their instincts without completely abandoning the analytics? Because that's not what you're saying at all.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. And I think your body is a compass. We are emotional beings and we are feeling beings. And part of the Hell Yes part of the Hell Yes offer and the Hell Yes business is that intuitive energy that we are drawn to, that it's yes, I want that. We're often shoving that thing under the rug because we think, it's a crazy idea or whatever. You know what I mean? We just dismiss it. But that intuition is also giving you information. I think the killer combination is when you take the hell yes and you marry it with the data. Your dreams have data and there's so much there that you can leverage. And I think that's the other thing too. We forget how hard we've worked and how far we've come. It's take all your awesomeness of what's working, marry it with your hell yes energy and go conquer the world. Yeah. Lean into it. And I ask people very much energetically, like, what do you like about this? Do you not like it? Like, what's going on here? Because you as a person are an asset in your business and a very important one. So you can't just like throw that out and just listen to all the data. You have to do both.
Love that. And just in listening to you, thinking about the things that light me up, who would not want, like, if this, whatever that dream thing is, and someone came and said, here it is, this is the thing we want you to do every day, all day, and it's going to 10x your business. Like, no wonder you're like, yeah, of course I'll do it. Like, I feel your energy. I want to do that. I'm like, yeah. I definitely will reanalyze my own business and determine what are the things that do light me up and the things that maybe I'm just sludging along with. And I guess my follow-up question on that would be like, you and I met in the Story Brand community where we talk a lot about the stakes, what's at stake. So when we look at the real costs, not just the revenue cost, which of course is very critical, but the personal cost too of a business owner who sort of keeps pushing back on that same broken offer for another year instead of fixing it. I mean, what's at stake there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think this has come up a lot with people of like, how long do I do this for? Like, when is enough? That whole concept. And also to what you're saying, it's like, what are the opportunity costs of not going after your dreams or not figuring this out? I think sometimes we think it's logical to not do things until we're sure that they're right or have, complete clarity around it. So we're kind of spinning in this place and it's what we know and we just stay there. But if you really break it down, if you're taking a calculated risk, if you're going after the thing that really lights you up, the opportunity cost of not doing that is so huge, because when you make a calculated risk, you're doing this on data, you're doing this on your gut feeling. The downside is, number one, clear, like what's at stake. So you're making a conscious decision. And two, you often find, like, what do I really have to lose? Like, what do I really have to lose? And you find it's actually not as much as you thought it was. And in comparison to what you'll gain, it is minute, especially if there's a plan. And I think this is probably a really important point to make, is that when I'm asking someone or advising them on making a change to their business, like the service provider coach that I was talking about with her $385,000 program, like when we're talking about this, the risk of it being wrong and her launch tanking is big. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of fear there, to your point. I'd rather spend the $50,000 in ads to ensure, quote unquote, that I'm going to get this thing, right? So it's very, very emotional. But when you can show someone the bouncing ball and help them follow it through what you're seeing and the assumptions you're making and the historical data that we're carrying forward, people recognize it. They can see it. And once they believe in it, the upside, that whole feeling of the positive stakes, is it just carries people over the edge. I never want to be, and I don't suggest that anyone ever, especially if you're an agency or anyone who's working with anyone, you never want to be convincing somebody to do something they don't want to do. Right? Because it never works out. But if they can see it and you can show them and you're not attached to the outcome, like at the end of the day, you're helping them get what they want and not unnecessarily have to say no to their dreams because of a misunderstanding of what's going on in their business or an asset that's just broken and doesn't have to be the reason they don't hit their goals and live the life they want to live. Wow. That comes together beautifully.
Well, I'm hearing you say a few things, and certainly some of the emotions I'm feeling is, life's short. Nothing's guaranteed. Short. You experienced it early on, just how short it can be. Thank goodness you came out on the other side. But, a few things that we overlook at what's at stake is not living to the potential that we might have, not having enjoyed what we did better, and having spent more of our time, energy, made more of it doing the thing we love. And so for sure, what I'll do is across the screen, I would love to send anybody listening to just learn more about you. It's jessicamillercoaching.com. I'll make sure that comes across the screen because you've got so many fabulous resources we can tap into to learn more. Obviously, we can coach with you. But my final question would be if, a listener who, is out there, they finish this episode and they do one thing tomorrow to start auditing their offer, what would you tell them to do?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of two things. Number one, it's give the airtime and the space for that Hell Yes energy to come through. You know what lights you up. You are being called to something. You have these God-given gifts. They are not a fluke. Like, you are amazing. The fact that you even started a business is amazing. And so, like, honoring that you are a total badass and you can truly create whatever it is that you want to create because you want it is really important. And I think so honoring that and giving yourself that space to like let that be a guiding light of yours. And then, like we were talking about, understand what is going on in your business, like for reals. Look at your data. If you don't know how to look at it, find somebody to help you do that. It doesn't have to be super complicated. I'm not talking about you building some like blown out Google Analytics dashboard. I'm talking about like what is happening in your business and where is your money coming from. And if you want to look at that in more detail, like I said, find somebody to help you. Listen to my podcast. I talk about these things all the time on there. It's free. It's usually a half hour, but there's so much that you can uncover as to where you can grow your business with ease and do it fast and in a way that feels amazing.
Jess, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.